Hello and welcome to everyone on the call here today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Natalie Bomstad, and I want to thank you all for taking time today to connect with us in our series, Connecting for Wellbeing with Wallo, where we talk about all things kind of community, connection, and of course, well-being. So for the webinar here today, we're going to welcome your questions throughout, so feel free to put those in the chat box that you see. It should be on kind of the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. So we're going to be answering those throughout, and we're also going to have a time at the end, specifically where we can address questions and answers. So access to stable, affordable housing is a key determinant of health and well-being. And in the 2019 Wallo Resident Health and Well-being Survey, we also found that addressing affordable housing and homelessness really emerged as a key theme that residents felt would improve the overall health and well-being of our community. So today we're going to be diving into some of the current housing insecurities children and families are experiencing in Brown County. And before we begin, we do want to acknowledge that there are several ongoing conversations surrounding housing and how it can be improved within the community. Our conversation today will be specifically centered on how to increase the amount of landlords in our area willing to accept housing support, as it really has been identified as a key barrier. So we hope that the conversation will really help shine a light on the issue, potentially answer some questions surrounding kind of what accepting housing assistance would look like from a landlord perspective, and also how our community as a whole could help create change. So to help us navigate this topic, I'm really thrilled to introduce you to our panelists that you see here today. So we have Sue Loberger, Tiffany Cole, and Shannon Wienandt from House of Hope, Jessica Diederich and Gegare from Freedom House Ministries, Chia Lo and Jordin Gegare from Golden House, and we also have Patrick Leifker from the Brown County Housing Authority and Debbie Bushman from Newcap. So a really great group of panelists here today, and we want to thank you all for joining us. So to start off, we want each of you, if you could provide just kind of a brief overview of your organization's mission and how it relates to housing. So to start us off, kick it over to House of Hope.
Thank you so much, Natalie. We really appreciate you inviting us to talk with everyone today, and we appreciate what Wallo does for the community. So House of Hope, really our mission is to provide a safe and supportive place where young parents and their children who are experiencing homelessness are able to grow and become more confident, independent, and successful members in our community. And we opened our doors in the year 2000, so we're one of the younger organizations on the call. But really, the way that we fit into this housing discussion is that we provide emergency shelter, but we also have several housing stability programs in the community, and we get some funding that really only allows us to pay for things like rent and utilities. And so it allows us the ability to provide a positive support system for people in their own homes as we serve them, and then we can kind of just celebrate their journey to stability and walk that walk with them.
Thank you, Shannon. Golden House, could you provide an overview for us?
Yeah, so I echo what Shannon said. Thank you so much, Natalie, for setting this up. We are excited to be a part of this. Golden House, our mission is to provide safety and support for victims of domestic abuse while leading efforts to end domestic violence in our community. So most people in the community know us for our shelter, but that's only about 25% of what we do. 75% of the clients that we serve are actually in an outreach basis. So we have our rapid rehousing program that was implemented last year, and we will cover that later on, but we have been having difficulties finding landlords to rent to those individuals. And then we also have our Safe Home program that we are able to provide rent assistance to as well. So Golden House, we have been around for 40 years, and our mission is to serve all victims of domestic violence.
Thank you, Chia. Freedom House Ministries.
Hello, my name is Jessica, and Freedom House Ministries has been around since 1992, and we are the shelter for families with children in town. So it'd be a mom and kids, dad and kids, or a couple with their kids. We have 16 rooms, so we can house 16 families here at our shelter. And we have programming, so the typical stay for a family that comes through our doors, they're typically here for about 8 to 12 weeks, and we have full programming throughout that. And then what we do is we collaborate with a lot of the other organizations who are on this call and others in the community to try to find stable housing for the families that come through our program. So, and we definitely are seeing the struggle, just like the others, is to find places that are available. There's so many resources to help pay for it and give them assistance, but we're struggling to find actual housing and landlords willing to take them in. So, and thank you for having this call. It's a very important topic.
Thank you, Jessica. Brown County Housing Authority.
Hi, I'm Patrick Leifker with the Housing Administrator for Brown County Housing Authority. Thanks for the invite. So the Housing Authority's mission is to ensure that all residents of Brown County have access to safe, affordable housing. The biggest aspect of our program is the Housing Choice Voucher Program, or the Section 8 program as it's commonly referred. Brown County has about just under 3,500 vouchers that can be utilized for a rental assistance subsidy. One of the biggest struggles that we're running into right now is, like everyone else has mentioned, the lack of affordable housing and partnerships with landlords. So we're trying to foster those positive relationships with both the Housing Authority and our subcontractor, which is Integrated Community Solutions.
Thank you very much for being here today. And last but certainly not least, Newcap.
Hi, I'm Debbie Bushman with Newcap. And Newcap is a community action agency, was formed in the War on Poverty back in 1965. Newcap's mission is to move people from poverty to opportunities and economic security and help to improve communities. There are 16 community action agencies throughout Wisconsin. Newcap is one of them. We serve 10 counties in northeastern Wisconsin, Brown being one of the counties that we serve. We have permanent supportive housing programs in Brown County, rapid rehousing for youth, and are expanding to rapid rehousing for singles. We administer motel voucher programs, and also continue to have the struggles finding, I don't think we don't have the struggle necessarily of finding the landlord. It's just of finding affordable units throughout the community. In the majority of the programs that we have, we hold the lease on the unit, so the landlord is more willing to lease to Newcap, because if there's damages, we cover the damages. We pay the rent every month, so it makes it a little easier for us to find landlords. And so our biggest problem is finding the affordable housing.
Thank you very much. And thank you all of you for providing that overview. So as we started to kind of jump in, I'm going to direct our first question to Golden House to really kind of help set the stage for us. So can you identify for us really what we're seeing in terms of the current opportunity gap that exists in terms of housing in Brown County?
Yeah, so going off of what Debbie just shared, affordable housing and then a lack of housing. So the current opportunity gap right now that we are facing in Brown County in terms of housing is shortage of landlords and shortage of affordable housing. So we have the dollars to help support housing, but we're struggling to find landlords and we are struggling to find affordable units. Last year, Golden House, we received a grant over $200,000 to provide housings for families and singles for up to a year. It was a challenge finding landlords that would take these vouchers. And on top of that, we also have clients who have ICS vouchers that have expired because they can't find landlords that will rent to them. So one thing I really want our community in Brown County to understand and know that shelter and motel vouchers are not sustainable for families and individuals. We need to look at pretty much the housing first model. And the goal of that is to provide safe, affordable, permanent housing for individuals and families who are experiencing homelessness. Right now, it's costing on average about $60 to $80 a night to house one person in shelter versus $550 to $750 for rent for a month for individuals.
So in addition to that, by having this conversation, our goal is to work as a bridge or connector between clients and landlords. We're hoping that there's teaching and support on both sides, and that we're also meeting everybody's needs. So like at a transactional level, we are achieving housing for our clients and the landlords are receiving their reimbursement. But on a deeper level, we're also providing a solid foundation for our clients. And then we're also helping landlords understand what it's like to work with people who have suffered trauma or are continuing to suffer trauma. A lot of times individuals may not have the skill sets they need to have that conversation. And so by working as that connection between clients and landlords, we can make that process easier and get the ball rolling. And like Chia said, I mean, shelter is a short-term option. Unfortunately, we cannot serve people as long as we would like to. So we are meeting immediate safety concerns. And even then, shelter it's a difficult thing to live in. It has its barriers. You have a lack of personal space. Many families are there. It's one family to a room, and that may be up to 5 or 6 per family. Singles will have to share a room. We have shared bathrooms. That's a strain on those individuals because while they're trying to heal, they're simultaneously having to navigate this communal living environment. So we are really hoping that by getting them the unit that they need and the independence that they need, that's going to make it easier for them to go out into the community, at least on our part when the safety barriers have been removed. Another part of that too is that we're not just sending them out there, that we're sending them with resources, with support, with case management. I'm sure some landlords, they don't know exactly what they're signing up for, and I think that by having an advocate work with the landlord and with the client, we can help the landlord feel more comfortable with approaching this.
Thank you very much. So we really kind of are talking about kind of the need for additional landlords, some of that education in terms of landlords. So House of Hope, if you could kind of address that question, if I'm a landlord who's interested, can you kind of walk us through what this relationship would really look like from their perspective?
I'll let Tiffany and Sue talk a little bit more about that specifically. But I would share that overall, we would agree with Golden House's housing first approach. That is so important for our community. What we see happen when people move out of shelter into a supportive housing situation where, they have their own lease and they have a great, healthy relationship with their landlord, is that their success rate is higher and they don't return to homelessness. It's more easy for them to maintain employment and to increase their income, to maintain a healthy level of mental health, physical health, family structure. They just have less stress because they have more control over their life. But our case managers here in Brown County at House of Hope and at all these amazing organizations on the call today, they do a really great job at helping to ensure success. So I'll let Sue and Tiffany talk about that.
Tiffany deals with landlords a lot more than I do, but I think it's important for the landlords to know that with our programs, all of our clients are having at least one in-home visit a month where they're meeting with the case manager to talk about budgeting, and the case manager is checking on them to make sure that they're keeping the unit clean, talking to them if there are any maintenance issues that need to be taken care of, and helping them to develop a stronger positive working relationship with the landlord, so that if something does come up, they feel comfortable either calling the landlord themselves or if they see them to say, hey, this isn't working in my unit. And then we do the in-home visit, but then they're also required to meet with their case managers once a month in our case management offices. So we're really having contact with these people a minimum of twice a month. And we're just setting them up to be as successful as they can be and being sure that their basic needs can be met, but that they can also be successful in the unit that they're in. So, and like Shannon said, their stress level goes down. They're able to usually keep or find and keep employment because they know where they're going to be. They know how they're going to get back and forth to work. So it's just kind of a win-win all the way around once they're housed.
Yeah, some other somewhat alarming statistics, if we can't find success for families, is that, what we really see is that there are some significant issues that develop in our community. About 75% of children who are under the age of 5 who've experienced homelessness have at least one developmental deviation or delay. And about 60% of the people that we serve here at House of Hope and Shelter are children under the age of 5. So the average person that we're looking for housing for are, they might be 23 years old with a couple kids, or it's a family with children who are school age usually.
So would the landlord work directly with the organization for that contract, or is it through the individual or the family?
It will be a combination of both for House of Hope and Golden House. And so our programs are pretty similar, I would say. There are really amazing case managers that a landlord would have access to, who are very professional, and who a landlord would be able to talk with if there are any issues. And sometimes it could be a person's first time renting. So, that person might need more support, and they could talk to the case manager to help navigate through paperwork. And if the landlord has any issues, then it's a little easier, I think, to just call the case manager and say, hey, here are some things that maybe my tenant could work on. Could you help with that? And we can be more supportive in that relationship building process.
Yeah, so at Golden House, absolutely. Similar to what Sue had mentioned, our case management is we meet with the families minimal of twice a month. So Abby, our rapid rehousing caseworker, it's been almost weekly. And if they're not meeting in person, it's texting, it's emailing. So we have noticed with our relationship with the current landlords that we have been working with now, they also see that we have been really responsive. So if there's any issues anytime, they can just text our caseworker. And as Shannon mentioned, some of the individuals that we have worked with at Golden House, this is their first place that they have been on their own. And, they have been living with abusive partners, or they have just not that stable housing. So to them, this is a new thing for them, like learning life skills, learning even how to pay their utility bill. So our caseworkers are right there helping them, guiding them. So as we stressed earlier, when we do case management with programs, and it's not, here's the family, connect them to the landlord, and like we'll never check on them again. It's constantly working with them and connecting with them.
Yeah, and we will, with our clients, and I'm sure the other agencies too, we'll sit down and help them fill out the applications, make sure that the information that they're putting on the applications is correct. Should they get denied for a reason, we'll sit down and write letters on their behalf, or help them explain, like, this happened 7 years ago in my past and it's not part of who I am anymore. So we're also advocating for them. And the landlords that we work with, we have really, really good relationships with, and they know that they can reach out to us. And we want those really good relationships because it's hard to find landlords that will rent to people who are on housing vouchers. So therefore, any landlord that is going to accept one of our clients, we're going to do everything that we can to be sure that that's a good relationship.
Thank you. There is a question from Jim in the chat. Is there any one of you working with kind of multiple housing authorities? For example, with Village of Pulaski, where Jim lives and volunteers?
Yes, I know at House of Hope we do work with multiple counties around our area. We let people decide where they want to live, so we have house people in Pulaski, or in Shawano or Oconto, if their family is there and they want to move closer to family. We'd be very interested in talking to more developers and landlords if there are properties there that have vacancy. As far as the housing authority goes, I think they just don't have as many units available in those smaller areas, but we still work with them.
Yeah, it's same with Golden House. We believe that a client has the right to pick and choose where they want to live. So we just don't pick a place for them. We want to make sure that it's a right fit for them.
Thank you. And we do have, so kind of another kind of follow-up, municipal housing authorities. So Jim says that Pulaski recently took 2 units off the market due to tenant damages. So are you working with municipal housing authorities in that way to address some of those issues?
I can't speak to Pulaski's specific issue with their municipal housing authorities, but you know that isn't a situation that I'm aware of, so I'm not really sure what happened there.
We at Newcap don't have a program that could help with just fixing up a unit to keep it on the market, unfortunately. If it's one of our program participants and we hold the lease on the unit, then we can look at repairing the damages, but not because somebody else damaged a unit someplace else. We can't, there's no landlord fund to dip into to give them money for damages.
What we do with, and what a lot of the programs here locally do to provide support for landlords, and we don't usually have people trashing units or anything like that. We usually work with families who are pretty amazing and just need a little bit of help to become stable. But we can provide first and last month's rent for some of these programs, and some of the programs can provide a double security deposit as well. And I think that helps landlords, because landlords can sometimes be taking a risk as well. You know, if somebody has had a few past evictions and a landlord wants to take a chance and help someone improve their situation, you know, then at least they have a double security deposit in the last month's rent up front, which can help alleviate some of these issues or some of these personal burdens. You know, the other thing that maybe that Chia, Debbie, Sue, you might want to talk a little bit more about or know more than I do. But you know, domestic violence is often a cause of eviction, and sometimes the person we're trying to help find housing has a record because of their abuser, or has past evictions or bills because of their abuser, not because they would do the same thing in another unit on their own.
So yeah, this is actually a part of one of the components of the power and control wheel. It's essentially a method by which abusers can take advantage of their victims. So if they destroy a unit before they leave and the unit is in the victim's name, that goes on the victim's record, and then the abuser isn't held accountable for it. Or they may say that they'll have the victim put their name on the lease or on the utilities and promise to support the victim. However, they won't end up contributing to the household. So then what happens is the victim falls behind on rent, and that goes on their record. They face challenge after challenge. So then when they have 3 evictions, it's very hard to explain to the next landlord, like, these are the circumstances and why that's not going to be an issue this time. We often need landlords to take a leap of faith with us, because this is an opportunity for our victims to heal from that abuse and from that manipulation. So it is truly a barrier, and often with that isn't just the evictions, it's also the cost of evictions. So that is something that we try to work with landlords on as well.
Thank you for that. We have kind of a question maybe for the group from Steve on the call, talking about, you know, has there ever been conversation, you know, whether within one of our municipalities like the city of Green Bay or in Brown County in general, around requiring a percentage of units in every development to be devoted to clients whose rent is subsidized by a third party. So kind of, has that been part of the ongoing conversation at a community level?
I don't know, Patrick, if you have a good idea about this one, but I know that members of the Brown County Homeless and Housing Coalition, the agencies that are part of that, do meet with housing developers and request that as units are being built, they consider opening that up, or maybe opening a couple units up in their new development for low-income housing. So that's definitely a question that we bring up, and some partnerships that we are trying to develop further, but I'm not quite sure about the ordinance question.
Yeah, I can't speak to on the political level of whether or not that conversation is being had, much like Shannon said. In terms of the housing authority, any developments that we look to get involved with, that is one of the requirements that our board does strongly consider. And when presented with opportunities to add project-based vouchers to units, that is definitely one of the biggest factors that the board looks at when reviewing those applications for new and upcoming developments within our jurisdiction.
So one of the things that we wanted to touch on today as well was really kind of share with the audience kind of how this approach is actually working for families. So Freedom House, can you share with us some of the stories of the types of families you'd be able to house and kind of some of those stories of success?
Sure. We actually have one of my favorite stories now is somebody who works for us at Freedom House. She came to us with her 3 children and was homeless and didn't have a job. We have a requirement through the programming that we put the families through is that they obtain employment within 30 days of coming into the shelter. And we obviously help them. We help them build a resume. We help them find resources. We help them build an Indeed.com account so that they know, so that it's very easy for them to find employment. We work with a lot of employers in the area. So she obtained employment, and there was a landlord who decided to try this out and accepted their first voucher with her. And she lived, after she moved out of here, she moved into this place and rented from them for 6 years and had an amazing relationship. And it was a good, stable place for her and her boys to live. And it was kind of that she needed somebody to take a chance on her. And this landlord did, and it was a beautiful success story. And it kind of just gave her the extra confidence she needed. And now she works for us, and she's an aftercare coordinator, which is amazing because she gives people hope who are also, they go through the program, move out on their own. And she's kind of their contact, like, you can do this. And if you need help, we're here. We have access to resources for you. Trust me, I did it. So it's really hopeful. But we have a lot of families who will come to us, and when they arrive here, they've never had a voucher before from ICS and had this subsidized housing assistance in this way before. And so we have to educate them on what it is. And sometimes people, they made it on their own before, but they can't anymore for one reason or another. And it's now maybe a single parent with multiple children. They're trying to figure out childcare and paying for that. They want to get back on their feet and support their family. And so we work through that whole process with each one of these people individually, but we work through a budgeting class with them as well. So they are required to attend that once a week so that we help them figure out what can you truly afford when you're out on your own with the wages you're now making while you're staying in here. We help them save up so they have that nest egg in case they need new tires or something comes up that a lot of us living paycheck to paycheck know that can cause some issues in your finances. So we work through all of those things and try to really prepare them before they're out on their own. But Leanna, works with families on a constant basis who are in these situations. And I don't know if you have any other examples of people or, yeah.
Yeah, so we recently had a family, about 1.5 years ago, and they were a large family. So usually we do have a harder time finding units for larger families because they need 3 and 4 bedrooms. So this family had been renting a duplex for a few years, and they had a great relationship with their landlord, but the owner decided to sell the house, and they were not in a position to buy it, and that is how they ended up in our shelter here. So they both worked jobs, but having that many children, they did need assistance with food stamps and other sort of resources. So when they entered our shelter, we got them applied for the ICS housing voucher to help them kind of regain their stability. But the woman in that relationship had an eviction from when she was 19 years old. She was just starting out, and she had frankly just made a mistake, being young, and it was just a mistake, and she had left the unit. And that had been over 10 years ago. But people were looking at that when they were applying and saying, well, you have an eviction. And they were just, denied outright because of that. So we worked with them for 12 weeks of programming. They obtained their ICS housing voucher, and we were having such a hard time finding them a place to go. And eventually we found a landlord with a house who was willing to give them a chance. And the kids were really excited. It was right next to a pickle factory, and it smelled like pickles, and they thought it was the greatest thing. And now they have been living there for over a year. They have a great relationship with the new landlord, and they're all doing really great, and they're really happy. It's good.
So I think, the common thread that we all have in this call is that we, especially for landlords who maybe haven't taken a chance on this and tried this, is there's so much stable funding that can help assist so that you know that you're getting those guaranteed funds, from these programs. But just there are so many good people out there that just need somebody to take a chance on them and help them out. They just need that little bit of extra help to get back to, the way things were and to be very stable. And these kids deserve that shot too.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. In terms of COVID-19, how has that either changed? I know that this has been a barrier that was identified, prior to COVID. How do you foresee that kind of changing as we kind of, I want to say we go more towards a recovery, but I feel like a lot of the things that we're experiencing right now will have lingering effects for months, if not, years to come. So how is that really impacting this situation that children and families are finding themselves in?
I think we're all trying to figure out, we can do it together, Chia. I think we're trying to figure out what that's going to look like. Some of the organizations on the call have the ability to provide assistance to families, and we certainly want to prevent evictions from happening. We do have some money coming into the community that we didn't before, quite a bit more money to help with rent and utility assistance because so many people lost their jobs and had a decrease in income. And so that's why this is the right time right now for the call and to help educate our community. And if you know a person who's a landlord, or if you have access to people who know people who are landlords, now's a great time to talk with them and have them reach out to one of our organizations because we just have more resources to help people than we used to.
Yeah, and I especially, I echo that comment as well. Golden House, every year we set aside a good chunk of money to help individuals, eviction prevention, help with any barriers when it comes to domestic violence. And this year so far we have we usually set around 30,000, and this year we have spent close to about 20,000 already, and that's something that we will continue to do to help individuals, because we truly believe that if we can help them to stay in their own place, that's better than being in shelter. And with the Safer at Home order being placed, our numbers actually decreased for shelter, but then once it was lifted, our numbers are gradually increasing again. So once the order was lifted, we have been getting calls on a daily basis, people seeking shelter and people needing the help. And right now we have rapid rehousing 2 openings. So we are looking for landlords that will take our voucher program.
If I could just put a quick plug in for the Wisconsin Rental Assistance Program that the governor recently released $25 million. to the state to help with eviction prevention. Newcap was awarded just shy of $2 million to help households that have had a loss of income due to COVID. And so the governor released his public notice 10 days prior to actually us getting a contract. So we have hundreds and hundreds of calls we are trying to get through and help people talk to landlords, try to stop them from eviction until we can at least see if they're eligible for the program. They can receive up to $3,000, so we're looking at a pretty good chunk of cash. And so if for any landlord that's on the call, if if you could just hold out or call me directly, we can have a chat and see if we can prevent the eviction. If you can just hold out for a week or so, we'll get through these 100 calls. We have 12 staff working on it. We will get through it.
And Debbie, is the $2 million just for Brown County specifically?
No, for Newcap's 10 counties.
Newcap's 10 counties. Okay, thank you.
So we have staff all over the 10 counties working on trying to get through all the applications, all the phone calls, all the the things that are coming, the emails and things that are coming through. So I mean, I did 20 calls myself this morning, so we're working on it.
And we at Freedom House, just to chime in, we're getting a lot more calls now. We were kind of prepared for it, knowing that landlords were not able to give eviction notices for a period of time during the safer at home order. So now that that's lifted, we are definitely seeing an influx in calls from people looking for shelter immediately, and they don't have a clue what to do or where they're going to sleep in a couple of days. So definitely more.
I think that's the biggest difference with all of the COVID, how COVID really impacted the numbers that we're seeing is just what Jessica shared. These are families and individuals who were making it on their own, and they were independent before. And now many people experiencing homelessness or experiencing instability have not experienced that before and are not always aware of what the resources are to help them.
Absolutely, thank you. We have a question in the chat. Is the difficulty with finding landlords, is that kind of unique to our area, or is this something that you see kind of throughout, Wisconsin and throughout the nation? And then to kind of piggyback on that, what have you heard are kind of some of the main barriers? Is it kind of the instability piece, or can you speak to that at all on what maybe some of those barriers are for landlords or what they have communicated?
We serve 10 counties, do housing projects throughout all 10 counties. So yes, the landlord issue, it's difficult finding landlords or affordable housing in all of our 10 counties. I attend a lot of national conferences and things, and every speaker that they have says it's an issue. It's an issue everywhere in the United States. So it's not just a Brown County problem. It's not a NIMBYism problem necessarily. It's just that the lack of housing is not there. I mean, the decent, safe, and sanitary housing is not available to them. So it is a problem nationwide, not just in Wisconsin.
Yeah, and one barrier that we often run to is affordable housing. So some landlords are requesting double or triple the security deposit, and our clients, they are barely making it. So to have that requirement of double or triple the security deposit, it's not doable. And I'm just thinking of even like my staff team, to even ask them to double or triple their security deposit with their salary, it's not doable. So I think we need to understand that even it's not that people are not working. Most of our clients do have jobs, they do have income, but their income is limited income.
One other question we have in the chat here, where do we send folks who we think may need legal assistance on evictions? And kind of a second part of that, what is the status of the Micah House and State Bar Association's free legal help? Does that coincide with that?
So if it's domestic violence related, you can send them to Golden House, because we do we do work with legal action, and we do have a legal advocate on our team as well who knows landlords / tenants' rights law when it comes to domestic violence, legal assistance with evictions.
So if some of our viewers or someone they know are a landlord, how would they go about getting in contact with each of you, or kind of take those next steps? Would they reach out to the agency in particular?
They could honestly reach out to any one of us, and we can get them connected based on really what their interest is, because there's different programs in this, Brady Bunch squad of boxes here of all of us. And there are a lot of opportunities, but it probably just depends on what they're offering, what they're looking for. And we know what some of the requirements are that they need. So we would be able to, any of us could help. If they just start with one of us, we'll get them to the group.
And I would encourage landlords to, when you're reaching out, just ask questions. And I mean, we're going to be open and honest with you, because like I said before, we want to develop those relationships. So we need to be as forthcoming as we can. And in Pulaski, where they had the damage in those units, that's very unfortunate. But it's important to remember too, that a lot of these programs come with at-home case management. So if a case manager goes in there and sees damage or, just not being kept up, that's going to be addressed. It's not going to be something that's going to go on for, 6 or 9 months until they would end up getting evicted or just move out. There's always going to be that relationship with that case manager. And our case managers, and I'm sure I'm speaking for all the agencies, our case managers really get to know the landlords. And are really quick to call them, and sometimes even like, can you let me know when you have a 2-bedroom coming up, or do you have anything? Just because it is so difficult to find decent, affordable housing for our clients.
I'd like to add to Sue's comment that our purpose in making those referrals to landlords is truly to get our clients that home that they need, and the relationship isn't about asking the landlord to become an agency or to know everything that we know to serve the client. What we're asking for is for them to take that chance, and also for them to be willing to work with us. There is so much that I think we could teach across both sides, and ultimately at the end of the day, everybody benefits from that. Landlords benefit, we benefit, and most importantly, our clients are going to benefit from that process.
Thank you very much. And Noel did put in the chat to everyone as well that NeighborWorks Green Bay does accept housing choice vouchers and special program partnerships. They have 249 total units and 16 are currently vacant. So he does have that number to call there listed as well. Are there any other questions? And as I kind of throw that out to people on the call, if you have any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat function now. And then for our panelists, any final thoughts that you'd like to share with us all today?
I guess I'd just like to say thank you for having this conversation. I think it's important. The first step to starting something and moving it forward is to have a conversation about it. If we never did, we would never be able to provide all of the things we can for our clients. So thank you.
Thank you, Natalie, for everything Wallo does for the community and for letting us talk today. The more people we can house stably in our community, the more healthy our community will be. And it's really great that we can all work together to do that.
Absolutely. So it takes the whole community to end homelessness. So I believe that if we all do our part, our vision is to see a community where there's no homeless people on the street.
Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate everybody listening in and at least considering doing something like this.
Well, thank you all, people on the call, as well as our panelists for joining us today. As we were kind of preparing for this webinar, we talked about how, this is just a first step. right? This is a conversation starter. And I did kind of acknowledge in the beginning that there are other conversations happening within our community around housing. Our goal is really to find ways that we can really come together and take some collective action. So I think that we have some good starting points here. And for anyone on the call, feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we will share that information widely after the call. So in addition, if you have any suggestions on kind of future Connecting for Wellbeing topics, feel free to send us a note at hello@wallo.org. And you can always visit our website at wallo.org as well for more information. So thank you again to all of our panelists, for everyone for the really engaged conversation, and continue to stay healthy, safe, and well. So take care, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thanks, everybody.